So magandang araw sa inyo. Hello everyone, I'm Sir Mark again here at the Introduction to Philosophy of the Human Person. And now we are in second quarter of the year, and specifically we are now in module 1 of second quarter. So, are you ready to learn? I hope you are ready also. Yeah. So our topic for today is all about the freedom of the human person. So in this topic, okay, in this topic we are expected to we're expected in this module, okay, in this module we are expected to learn or be able to, number one, realize that all actions have consequences. So in this module we are expected to realize na lahat ng ating ginagawa is meron siyang consequences, meron siyang kapalit. That must be yan yung dapat na ma-realize nyo sa topic na ito. Number 2 is evaluate and exercise prudence in your own choices. And number 3, realize the choices have consequences and some things are given up while others are obtained in making choices. Now lastly, show situations that demonstrate freedom of choice and the consequence of their choices. So, that must be the expected outcome, okay, sa lesson na ito. But before we continue in our lesson, let me show you a video clip, okay, regarding sa ating topic na ito. Please watch.
Irresponsibility, fears, and bad. Let's talk about freedom. What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean having rights in your country? You know what they say, having freedom from oppression? Some people think freedom is all about having money, the freedom to have things that they want. And then there's the freedom to do, the ability to go wherever you want and to have all of your wishes become reality. Most people fantasize about not having to work ever, and they often equate a sense of freedom with being physically healthy. Physical health and not having financial burdens are definitely a part of freedom. Have you ever met anyone who has all these things taken care of? Are they free? Have you ever considered the life of a celebrity? Do they seem free to you? Or people in the first world, do they seem free? If you ask them about freedom, what do you think they would say? Are they stress-free? Are they free from addictions? Are they free to be who they really want to be? Obama's the leader of the free world. Ever notice how gray his hair got after he became president? There's a lot more to freedom than we commonly think. Political freedom, financial freedom, and physical freedom only make up half of what is truly freedom. Because there's internal freedom and external freedom. Internal freedom is what happens inside of you, and external freedom is about your surroundings and your environment. To better explain this, I'll talk about some threats to freedom. Let's start with external freedom, which relates to the ability to have or to do. Threats include injustice, criminals, or environmental challenges. And now, internal freedom. Threats to internal freedom are things like dogma, irresponsibility, fears, and bad habits. So what is internal freedom? I think a better question is, where is internal freedom? Obvious answer, inside of you. Inside your personality, inside your thoughts, inside your consciousness, inside your heart. Internal freedom relates to things like balance and self-control and calmness and determination and willpower. It's all about the freedom to think what you want and to feel what you want and to be what you want. And the struggle for control over your inner world is just as important as the struggle for control of your outer world. If we aren't in control of our thoughts, how can we decide what we learn? And if we don't control what we learn, how do we control how we evolve? Both internal and external freedom have a lot in common. I think freedom is about safety in a way. Safety to let yourself have the experiences that you want to have. And to me, safety relates closely to security. Security is obviously an important component to external freedom. I think security goes hand in hand with confidence. And I think that confidence is a chief factor for internal freedom. Because insecurities can keep us hostage. Insecurities can trap us. And then we end up trapping ourselves. But if we had the confidence to know that we were actually in control of our internal freedom, we could set ourselves free. But unfortunately, we've been conditioned to fear that idea that we have the control because we don't want the responsibility. But raising your hand and claiming the responsibility is the only way to win your internal freedom. I think that power is directly connected to responsibility. But once you can own your responsibility, then you can get back your power and win. In future videos, I'll talk more about internal freedom when I talk about the might of thought. But right now, let me summarize. There are two types of freedom: internal freedom and external freedom. While they operate in different spheres, both are intimately connected and related to each other. Both are important for our healthy development. We are physical bodies and consciousnesses at the same time. But I think these days we must pay special attention to our internal freedom. Accepting your own personal responsibility is the key to internal freedom. What does freedom mean to you? This video was inspired by Philo's Freedom article. I'll post a link to it in this description.
So yan, di ba? So I hope na na-encourage kayo at nagkaroon kayo ng idea so kung ano ba yung freedom. Okay, let's go back to our plan. So what is freedom? So let's make it summarize sa inyo napakinggan na video. Okay, so ganito yung kasimple. Yan. So what is freedom? Nakita nyo dyan yung isang aso at meron siyang isang trainer. Right? So, ano yung pinagkaiba ng dalawa? Sa tao, sa aso. Okay. So, ang animals actions are predetermined. When we say predetermined, alam mo na kung ano yung gagawin ng aso. Diba? Kapag ang trainer ng aso ay nagsabing sit, expected mo na automatic ang gagawin ng aso, uupo. Kapag sinabi ng trainer na jump, diba? Or anumang paraan, merong cue, merong keywords, yung trainer, meron siyang key actions, key gestures na kinakailangang mangyari para yung aso ay umakto ayon sa inaasahan. Why? Because you animals have no free will. They are programmed. Diba? So, kumbaga natitrain sila na gawin ng isang bagay based on what they have been taught. Kung ano yung naituro sa kanila. Unlike a person, he has a choice. Okay, sorry for the typographical error. A person has a choice to do whatever he wants. Diba? Kapag ang isang tao, for example, nilapitan mo yung hindi mo kilala, at sabi mo, sige nga, tayo ka, upo ka. Susunod ba sila ng ganon? Actually, hindi. Diba? Bakit? Every person has their own freedom. They have choice. So that's the difference with human and animals. We as a human, we have our choice. We have our freedom. Diba? Kaya hindi natin pwedeng diktahan ng tao. Diba? They have their own thinking. So that is the simplest form of definition, explanation of freedom. But actually, freedom has three categories. So there are three categories of freedom. Number one is physical freedom. Number two is psychological freedom. And lastly is moral freedom. So what are those freedom? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so physical freedom. So actually, this physical freedom, ito yung kadalasan nating naiisip kapag napapakinggan natin yung salitang freedom o kalayaan. This means that physical, yun yung naiisip natin agad, physical freedom. But actually, physical freedom, okay, it refers to the absence of any physical restraint and the freedom of mobility to act and go whatever, whenever, wherever he or she pleases. So, when you say physical freedom, you have no boundary physically. Pwede kang pumunta sa lugar na gusto mong puntahan, okay, unlike this pandemic, okay, or pag sinabing physical freedom, kaya mong gawin yung gusto mong gawin, kung gusto mong sumayaw, mag-TikTok, kaya mong gawin, that's physical freedom. Walang limitation, okay, so that is physical freedom. What is psychological freedom? So psychological freedom, it is also the freedom of choice. Okay, so when we say psychological freedom, okay, it is also called freedom of choice. Kalayaang pumili. Okay? So, kung ang physiology, ang physical freedom is speaking of physical things na hindi